England, during one of the coldest Januaries on record. Where gossip flowed faster than the frozen local river, Alice had spoken ill of Constable Thomas Harding, a powerful man with fragile pride. He accused her of scolding, nothing more, nothing less. It was enough. Dragged from her home on the morning of January 12th, Alice screamed that it was unfair, that she had spoken only the truth. But truth never mattered when power felt threatened. Her daughter, just 9 years old, named Margaret in parish records, tried to cling to her skirt as guards arrived. Guards tore them apart in the frozen morning. The girl's cries were drowned by the cheers already building outside. Alice was marched through town as neighbors jeered, their breath fogging in the January cold. Some she had helped in the past. Some who had once called her friend, now they spat at her feet in the frozen street. At the riverbank, she saw the ducking stool for the first time, a sun-bleached chair suspended over black water with ice forming at the edges. The mud below churned like a hungry mouth. They strapped her down. Rough hands yanked leather tight until her skin bruised purple from constriction and cold. She begged not for herself, but for her daughter to be taken away, to not witness this in the January cold. No one listened. Constable Harding gave the order. The beam tipped. Alice plunged. Cold stabbed her chest like 1,000 knives. Her lungs seized the mammalian diving reflex, triggering immediately in the 4-degree water. Darkness swallowed her whole. She kicked wildly, but the restraints refused mercy. Her heartbeat thundered in her skull. She prayed she would rise again. When she did, it was only long enough to choke on air and see her daughter Margaret screaming her name in the frozen morning. Then another plunge. Each descent lasted longer than the last. Alice's mind flickered between terror and fading consciousness as hypothermia set in. Her limbs grew numb, not just from restraints, but from the January water shutting down her peripheral circulation. Her mouth filled with river water. Up, down, up, down. The crowd's excitement dimmed as Alice's struggles slowed. Spectacle turned to silence. On the final lift, her head lolled forward. Her eyes, once fiery, were empty. Constable Harding, embarrassed by her death, demanded they continue. One more plunge to prove she had been defiant even in drowning. When they lifted the chair again, nothing came back with it. Alice slipped into the mud below, claimed by the river she feared. Her body preserved by winter, cold in the sludge. Her daughter Margaret cried until her voice broke a haunting echo that outlived her mother. Recorded in the parish register as the girl who screamed all through evensong, Alice Turner never received burial. No gravestone. No justice. Just a warning burned into the memories of every woman watching in that frozen January morning. Speak and you may never breathe again. But Alice wasn't the only one. In February 1654 inches Chester, England, a woman named Jane Barker was ducked 7 times in the frozen River Dee for arguing with her husband in the market. She survived, but lost 3 fingers and both ears to frostbite. The record states she learned her lesson. In December 1683 inches, Colonial, Massachusetts, Sarah Good was ducked in Salem Harbor during a nor'easter. The water temperature was below 2 degrees Celsius. She died of hypothermia within an hour of being pulled out, shaking violently until her heart stopped. The magistrate wrote, "The Lord's judgment upon a contentious woman in January 721 inches. London. The ducking stool at Execution Dock was used on 3 women in a single morning, all accused of disturbing the peace by complaining about bread prices during a winter famine. 2 survived. The third, Elizabeth Webb, drowned when the mechanism froze, mid-plunge, trapping her underwater for nearly 4 minutes. The operator was not prosecuted. The official verdict: misadventure. These weren't isolated incidents. Court records from Kingston upon Thames alone document 43 uses of the ducking stool between 1,600 and 1,750, with 15 deaths, a mortality rate deliberately higher during winter months when the crowds were largest and the water coldest. The ducking stool eventually vanished. Outlawed. Abandoned. Left to rot in river mud. But the silence it enforced, that legacy endured. For centuries afterward, women were still called scolds, still punished for speaking not with water, but with laughter, ridicule, dismissal, violence behind closed doors. History likes to pretend progress is linear, that cruelty is a medieval relic. But even today, a woman who raises her voice is labeled emotional, difficult, crazy, too much. The ducking stool may be gone, but the urge to silence women remains, reshaped and disguised. Alice Turner has no monument. Neither do Jane Barker, Sarah Good, Elizabeth Webb, or the thousands who drowned before them. So we remember them here, where the past refuses to stay underwater. The last documented use of a ducking stool in England occurred in 1,809 inches. Leominster, a woman named Jenny Pipes, was ducked in the winter for scolding her neighbor. Public outcry finally led to the stool's removal. Not because the punishment was cruel, but because it had become unseemly for modern times. The underlying belief that women's voices needed control persisted long after the tool disappeared. Ask yourself, how many voices were lost because someone decided they were too loud, too opinionated, too alive? And if silence is still demanded of women today, if speaking up still invites punishment in the form of dismissal, mockery, threats, how far have we really come? The winter water that claimed Alice Turner in January 1633 was cold enough to stop her heart in minutes. The cold reception that greets women's voices today works more slowly. But the goal remains the same: silence through suffering. These women, Alice with her 9-year-old daughter watching, Jane Barker with her frostbitten fingers, Sarah Good shaking to death from hypothermia, Elizabeth Webb trapped underwater by frozen machinery, they deserve more than erasure. The ducking stool wasn't a relic of barbaric strangers. It was the work of ordinary people, neighbors, priests. Husbands all convinced they were right during those brutal winter months when control seemed most necessary. And history shows us the same lesson again and again. When a society fears a voice, it tries to destroy the body that carries it. The records survive. Court documents from Kingston upon Thames, Chester, Salem, London, they document the names, the dates, the water temperatures, the mortality rates deliberately higher in winter. They document a systematic silencing of women that lasted centuries. If you want more historical reality that destroys comfortable myths about women's oppression, subscribe to Medieval Survival. We're just getting started, revealing what actually happened behind the legends. The ducking stool may be gone, but the frozen Thames remembers Alice Turner. The River Dee remembers Jane Barker. Salem Harbor remembers Sarah Good. And we remember them all, the women whose only crime was refusing to stay silent, whose punishment was drowning in winter water while their communities cheered. When society fears a voice, it's always willing to drown the body that carries it.